This is a 2023 BMW iX M60, an all-electric SUV-shaped freight train with 2 rows of seating and taped-on kidney grills. The iX SUV was launched in conjunction with the i4 sedan by BMW for the 2022 model year. But the 2022 model year was the xDrive 50 iX. This is the new for 2023, more powerful iX M60. And this particular one is painted in Storm Bay metallic paint, which is a $1,950 optional color. And of course, being an M60 makes this the higher of the 2 trims offered. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor. And I've never driven a freight train before. I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s. And I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a BMW iX xDrive 50 is $88,095. Going for the more powerful M60 raises the base price to $106,095. Yeah, $18,000 difference. And my test car that does have a fancy interior, paint, and packages costs $115,870. Okay, with that, now is a good time to show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail, show you this fancy interior I'm talking about. The BMW iX, especially this M60, is bold in its styling, certainly, yet also kind of squared off. It's simultaneously old school and futuristic. It's definitely worth taking a closer look. And actually, let's start in the dark, because here is the BMW iX locked in my garage. I do not have the key with me. Let me grab it. Now that the key is in my possession, the lights automatically come on, the side view mirrors automatically fold out, and the interior lights come on. I don't know if you can see that too well, but they're definitely on. And check out this ambient lighting that is at the base of the windowsills in both the front and the back. When I open the car door, you get more of this green ambient lighting, and then just the entire car lights up and gives this kind of like waking up setup going. You can hear the climate control fan starting to run. Everything about it is waking up. I haven't touched anything. I haven't unlocked anything. This is just the car knowing that the key is nearby. And real quick, when it's time to go away, here's the key fob, lock it again. Those ambient lights convert to red. Everything shuts off pretty quickly. From the front of the car, the one and most obvious and most interesting part about it is this kidney grill right here. It's the old school, like 1930s era BMW kidney grill shape, and yet it's also a sticker, basically. There's no openings here. Now, there are some vents down here down low, and these are active shutters, by the way, just above this lower lip spoiler, but I just find this immensely fascinating. Also, this is very vertical, just chopped right off, right at the front here. Nothing really extruding out until you get to the lip spoiler. And the headlights, they have a really cool shape, and they're plenty long, but they're rather simple in the sense that the vast majority is forward. You get a lot closer to the center with this headlight assembly than you do on a lot of cars, and it only just a little bit heads off to the side. Plus, you have this kind of like arrow-shaped pattern coming off the side here, pointing towards the center. And then yes, these are functional air curtains. This being an electric vehicle, even though it's all-wheel drive, I'm sure you're curious, does it have a frunk? No frunk. But I'll take it a step further. No hood, really. To open the hood, you're supposed to contact a dealer and have someone do it at the dealership. But here's where things get really interesting. How do you add windshield washer fluid? Right there. The BMW logo is your windshield washer reservoir opening. How about that? Welcome to the future. Looking at the car from the side, you get a better sense of kind of the squared off nature of it. I think you do have a pretty darn steeply raked front windshield right here, but then it just kind of like blends into this pretty squared off block right here. I do quite like this like bronze look of the lower window trim right here, and it actually extends from ahead of the windows, becomes part of the under part of the side view mirror covers, and goes all the way past right to this underline of the BMW iX logo baked into the side here. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now so you can check those out, and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. This is a pretty well stretched out wheelbase right here, but the overhangs aren't super short. You get a little bit in the back, but it's pretty short in front. Generally, I think it's a cool shape, and I do think these door handles are really cool as well. Nothing exposed, just an opening to put your hands in. 21-inch wheels are standard on the BMW iX, but no, these have the optional 22-inch wheels that you see right here, and we do have performance rubber wrapped around them. That's definitely good. Things are getting big these days, and it's a cool design, I have to say, and it does look like a relatively efficient design as well. Looking at the car from the back, I do think these super narrow taillights are very cool. Just kind of have this like squinting eye look. I also quite like the detail of the M60 badge right here. Just another like little like bronze detail to make up the outline of the lettering. Otherwise, pretty simple, straightforward look. I could do without this like faux diffuser look right here. To me, that's a little bit overwrought in a car like this, but otherwise, it's a generally cool shape. And actually supplies a pretty healthy amount of room. That is 36 cubic feet of space back here behind the second row, and you do have a little bit of additional space underneath, and this actually goes quite deep. Here, let me move the camera quickly to show you that. Also, I find it really interesting that you can have the tailgate up and you still have your tail lights here to function so that you can be legal and have the tailgate up. That's an interesting detail. And of course, if 36 cubic feet isn't enough room, easy enough to do. Just push these buttons here. And now you have 78 cubic feet of cargo space. And I believe plenty of space for my bike. It's a little bit narrower than it first looks, but fits fine, quite easily in fact. This being a fairly large two-row SUV, we do have pretty ample space for all the passengers inside. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and I have plenty of knee room right here. I also have a nice high seat bottom to give good thigh support. I also have 2 USB ports right in the back of the seat here, and that's true for both rear passengers here. I also have standard equipment, 4-zone climate control, and that includes heated seats for the outside seats. So there's a healthy amount of luxury for the second row. And we've got this really trick piece of panoramic roof glass right here, and of course an armrest with cup holders. Hey. Get to use these nice little inserted door handles here. We've got this really nice leather right on the door trim, and these almost like crystal shaped door seat adjustments right here. That goes along with 2-position seat memory right here, also with this nice crystal glass kind of look. Typical controls down here. We do have a hood release down here, and to open the door, that's also solenoid driven. That's done right here, right below the lock unlock buttons. These seats are covered in perforated Amido leather, and I may or may not be pronouncing that correctly, probably not. That is a $3,500 option in this iX. Not cheap, but they are quite comfortable. You have both tilt and telescope power adjustment with this switch right here. To go along with the glass on the door, you have this glass right here for the Prindle and for this here, and then this is actually haptic controlled, this wood right here. And the wood and the glass combined are part of the luxury package, which is $1,150, and you know, definitely looks lovely. The steering wheel itself is this TIE Fighter shaped thing. It's got this flat bottom and this flat top. These are cruise control options right here, and this is media, but these are also adjustments to the instrument cluster itself. The instrument cluster is a fully digital 12.3-inch screen with lots of adjustments to it, and right next to that, a 14.9-inch center console touchscreen. And as you can see, here is the first and second of the 4 zones of the climate control system. Getting below that, you have a lot of open space, some cup holders way down here because you have 2 levels of shelf space, and that lower level has more USB ports, and my phone is resting on a wireless charging pad right there. And above that, I show you the wood here. Next to that, the Prindle, and just above that, our start button is right here. That little bwomp is showing you that the car is indeed ready to drive, and now we have everything fully activated and lit up. And now that it is, I want to show you the climate menu because there's a lot to it. We have heated steering wheel, heated and ventilated seats, and that's true for both front passengers. And as you can see, you can play with how the vents are controlled and everything as well. Real quick, looking down, we've got this split opening for more storage in the lower center console. And if we look up, here are some controls for this nice piece of glass. Now this is a cool piece of technology because it's not a privacy panel on or off. It is a push of this button right here. So I hit it once and it's still tinted, but now you can see through. Push again and it's all shaded again. Really nice. The only other place I've seen that is on the Toyota Venza, but it is really cool technology. Back to the center console touchscreen, it does of course have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and that is of course wireless. But it also has adjustable recuperation modes, which is off accelerator battery regeneration, and you can choose among 4 different levels. But it's not done with shift paddles or anything like that. It's baked into the system here. So let me show you where that is. All the way down to driving settings, drivetrain and chassis, energy recovery in D. You can choose between low, medium, high, and adaptive. Adaptive is traffic-based recuperation. By the way, this also shows up on your instrument cluster. High, medium, low, and adaptive. All right, there's also a couple things to show down here. We do have an air suspension in this car, which means we have adjustable ride heights. So let me quickly show you. We're at the normal ride height right now. Now I'll hit this button and show you the high ride height. My modes, those are your drive modes. You have 3, personal, sport, and efficient. Now, with sport, when you activate it, you have different settings. And you can see, you can choose the drivetrain, the driving dynamics, the steering, the damping, driver seat support. So there's a lot of adjustments that's built into these drive modes and a lot of ways to customize it as well. Anyway, all this talk about driving, I'm definitely excited to get back to the drive. Let's do it. All right, let's dig into this powertrain. There are 2 power outputs available between the xDrive 50 and the M60, but both are 2 electric motors, 1 for each axle, and each with a single speed drive down gear attached. That, of course, makes it all-wheel drive. And both actually use the same front electric motor. It has peak outputs of 255 horsepower, certainly not bad, and 269 pound-feet of torque. However, the 2 trims change when you get to the rear axle. The xDrive 50 has a very potent 308 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. In total, that gives you 516 horsepower and 564 pound-feet of torque. Very, very healthy numbers to be sure. But the M60's rear motor makes 483 horsepower all by itself and 479 pound-feet of torque. Put that together and you at times have as much as 610 horsepower and, I hope you're sitting down, 811 pound-feet of torque. Yes, that is a lot of torque. Now, that isn't actually for sustained driving. When you're in a sustained driving situation, you get 532 horsepower and 749 pound-feet of torque. Both still incredibly powerful, big, epic numbers. But, you know, and the reason why that's the case is because the iX M60 has a launch control. And when you're in launch control, that temporarily boosts the amount of voltage available to you for a short amount of time in a big epic burst of power. And yes, I tested it. Yes, I will show you very soon. By the way, you cannot just add up the two numbers from the two different outputs of the front and rear motors because there is a voltage limitation of the entire system. So it's the entire system's voltage that dictates the total output of both motors at the same time. Speaking of, these motors are attached to a very, very big battery pack, 111.5 kilowatt hours, and that gives you a very healthy amount of range. This is not a small SUV, 195 inches long, and it weighs nearly 3 tons, and yet it officially gets a driving range of 274 miles. And that's the EPA number, but when I started with this car with a full charge, it showed me a range of 316 miles. And I've been driving this car a fair amount, and it's pretty much tracked. So in real world terms, I think it would be very easy to get over 300 miles in between charges. And that is getting quite close to what a tank of gasoline would give you in a car like this. When it does come to recharging, you can recharge at up to 195 kilowatts, which means you would go from a 10 to 80% charge in roughly 40 minutes. That is a little bit slower than some of the other numbers we've heard. Porsche Taycan and Hyundai, they have 800 volt systems, and so they can usually get to 80% in, between 15 and 20 minutes. But this is a really big battery pack, don't forget. BMW offered a lot of numbers for recharge times based on the amount of voltage and amps that you're using. I'm just gonna go ahead and put them on the screen right now for you to check out. There's another really interesting thing about this powertrain, and that is what BMW calls energy recuperation modes. There are 4 settings for that, as I showed you during the walk around. The adaptive has been really kind of like almost spooky to get used to. In traffic, it's pretty darn effective and will go effectively to high levels of regen, and you never have to touch the pedal. But I can quickly show you what high, medium, and low recuperation modes are like. Let's start with high, lifting off the accelerator. Yeah, and that's pretty effective deceleration. I would say that's about 1/4 of a G. The regeneration did back off some as the speeds got really low, so it's not quite one pedal driving levels, but it's one pedal driving as long as you're moving, certainly. Okay, let's try medium, lifting off the accelerator. And honestly, that's still pretty good. That's more than 1/10. That's maybe 2/10 of a G of deceleration right there. All right, low, lifting off the accelerator. And that is more than just coasting, but we're talking less than 1/10 of a G of deceleration to be sure. Now, briefly, I'm going to put it in adaptive, lifting off the accelerator. And that basically is coasting. Me personally, I would just keep it at the high level and have that nice analog feeling with the pedal. But, this way suits multiple tastes. But okay, let's talk about just the effortless power you get with this thing. One stab at the accelerator and, oh man, just instant, powerful, almost overwhelming amounts of acceleration. You saw just how quickly I jammed back into the back of the seat there. That's why I call this thing a freight train. It just feels like power is omnipresent. It's insane. And the response is that immediate electric motor response that I absolutely love. And ooh, I am in front of somebody now. So now I'm pretty close to this person. I'm gonna lift off the accelerator. And you can see there, I'm getting healthier deceleration until we get farther away, and then it backs off and it's more like coasting again. Anyway, this is a really interesting and in many ways really advanced powertrain. And because the battery pack is so large, it's gonna be easier for a lot more people to not have range anxiety. But while range and fuel economy are very important, it's not nearly as much fun as accelerating. especially when you have launch control, especially when you have more than 600 horsepower and 800 pound-feet of torque. Oh, great. Of course I had to test it. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the iX in sport driving mode, and I do have the driving dynamics in Sport Plus. So we should have launch control. That's right. Let's see how this goes. Okay. Coming to a complete stop. Foot hard on the brake, hard on the accelerator, launch control active, off the brake. Oh God. Oh God. Oh man. Wow. Oh man, that was just a gut punch right there. Launch control active, shows up on the instrument cluster, you lift off the brake and just, you get shoved back into the seat back and accelerate violently, yet incredibly smoothly. Wow. BMW says 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds in this nearly 3-ton SUV, and I believe it. Yes, this is a fairly big SUV, fairly heavy one as well. But also, yes, this is an M car. This is a BMW M car. So of course I had to test the handling as well. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for a handling test in the iX M60. I do have it in the sport driving mode, and I do have recuperation down to low, so it's a little bit more what I'm used to. And let's see what this nearly 3-ton thing does. Okay, yep, plenty of power, no issue there. Wow, okay, more body roll than I expected, but not much understeer. There is good chassis balance here. Oh man, there's not huge amounts of grip either, but it's not slow, certainly. Front end response is pretty darn quick, although the steering weight is a little lighter than I would find ideal. If it were a little heavier, I think it'd be a little easier to be precise, but yeah, goes over whoops in the road reasonably well. Yeah, and there's not much understeer. The chassis balance is really, really good. Yeah, you can power out of corners really, really well. Having so much more power on the rear axle than the front does really give this a rear wheel drive kind of feel, especially at corner exit. That part's really cool. And this definitely belies its nearly 3 tons of weight, more than 5,700 pounds this thing. Now, when you really lean on it, there is a decent amount of body roll, a little bit more than I expected with this air suspension, but the front end response is pretty good, and yeah, it's enjoyable as well. Now, one more demerit, the steering feel is a step below, like certainly the 3 Series, but it's pretty precise considering everything. And I mean, you'll surprise more than a few folks with the amount of pace you'll be able to keep up. And yeah, power is always fun. Going back to this being an SUV and a fairly big one and all that, how does the car ride? How does it feel on the road? Well, if you're in the personal drive mode like I am right now, which is kind of like comfort, it's fantastic. We have air springs in this car. We have adjustable dampers in this car. We just have a really comfortable ride. It's plenty compliant over bumps and heaves in the road and all the little undulations on the road that you deal with. Also, BMW did a fantastic job to isolate the cabin from both road and wind noise. And that couples really nicely with these nice big digital screens, heated seats, ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, lots of connectivity options, and just general space for shoulders and everything. This is a very comfortable car. And that's true for roads like this or for the interstate. Yes, I did test it there as well. Let me show you that right now. Okay, time for a stint on the interstate. I do now have the iX in efficient driving mode and the recuperation setting in adaptive. But before I actually get on the road, I wanted to quickly show you the instrument cluster. There's a button right down here, settings. If I hit that, I can choose content or the head-up display. I can make adjustments to the head-up display or to the instrument cluster itself. From here, I can scroll. I can choose a route preview, assisted view, range prediction, trip data, and kind of like a blank setting, right? I'm gonna put it in assisted view because the iX has 2 levels of cruise control. You can choose between distance control and assisted driving. It says not available right now because we're in park, but I will be in the assisted driving setting, so that means I will have a lot of assistant stuff going on, which means it'd be good to have the assistance view on, and I wanted to explain all that before I was actually on the road. Anyway, let's get on the road now. Okay, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic, and I am in the assisted driving mode, so I will take my hands off the wheel, and we are staying right in the center of the lane as we go through the subtle curve in the road. At this speed, we have really good cabin isolation. These tires are very quiet. Wind noise is also very, very low. BMW did a fantastic job to get out all the squeaks and buzzes and little whistles you might hear otherwise. Very comfortable in here. Of course, the seats are comfortable and all the nice climate control and all that. But we also have this assistance screen. So as you can see, we have a car in front of us and we're adjusting our speed accordingly. There's another car coming up on the right, and that will appear on the assistance screen. There it is. So it gives you a 3-lane view of the road and shows you what the BMW sees and will adjust things accordingly. This is a very nice system. We had something similar in the 2024 Mazda CX-90, and I really like that as well. But this is just cool technology. I love the car showing you what the car itself sees. I think that's really important information to share. I'm very impressed with the amount of range you get in this BMW. I'm very impressed with how quiet and comfortable this car is. The ride is perfectly pleasant, you know, with adjustable air springs and the adjustable dampers. It floats over bumps and little whoops in the road and heaves in the road, all very pleasantly. And yeah, it's quite quiet in here as well. So yeah, this is a fantastic road trip car as long as you don't have any range anxiety to worry about. So what do we have with this BMW iX M60? Well, I think we have the perfect EV for extroverts, for well-to-do, well-off extroverts. This is not a cheap car. If you want the M60, you're talking 6 figures, but you do get impressive amounts of luxury and immense amount of straight line potential, speed and acceleration, and also pretty darn competent, capable, and enjoyable handling if you find yourself on some curvy 2 lanes. You also don't have a gas tank, just a plug. And if you drive it all gingerly for most of the time, more than 300 miles of range. At the exact same time, this car does not blend in. It is not subtle visually. It is actually not even subtle audibly, despite being an EV. You've heard all the noises and buzzes and drones and sounds it makes. You're gonna stand out in this thing, and I'm imagining you're gonna wanna stand out if you want this thing. I'm Robin Warner, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you showed me by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so helps me out quite a lot. Also, if you're interested in something like this, not too long ago, I got a chance to review the Lincoln Aviator Grand Touring Black Label. That is a plug-in hybrid, not a full EV, but it is a plug-in hybrid with superlative amounts of horsepower and torque like this one. Not quite as much, but still impressively high. And the price tag's not that low either. And from there, I've reviewed a whole bunch of stuff by now. Something's gonna pop up on the screen next to me. Hopefully it's something you're interested in. And if you do end up watching, I definitely hope you like it. Okay, goodbye for now.